be ready. Roll call. All present. Attest of publication.
I saw it.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. We did have we're going to move something up. Mr. Lane?
Yes. Yes, the music trip that was originally under Rick's agenda, Brittany Thummel, the advisor, had a engagement later on, so we moved her up after the approval of the agenda or actually the
Public comments.
public comments. So she will be zooming in actually when that comes up. So just wanted to draw that to your attention.
And it is changed on the documents in your book.
Yep.
Move
So-
to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mission, vision, and values. I will read that. Bangor School District mission, vision, and values statements. Mission, Bangor pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, sustainability. Okay, public comments.
None that I know of.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Brittany. Hello,
Hi.
you can go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about a proposal for the next music department trip. As you know, we were supposed to go on a trip last year to Florida, and because of COVID, we were unable to do so, and it was canceled very close to last minute. But we are trying to get back on rotation to plan the next one. So our next one would be coming up in the spring of 2022, so the spring of next school year, with the proposed dates of April 11th to the 16th. Our proposed location is to New Orleans. The reason we chose New Orleans is because it has a very rich musical history. It is the birthplace of jazz music. It's also the location of the very first opera house that was ever built in America. And they have such a unique culture that is just centralized around music. Every major event and celebration has music as one of its core aspects. It was also the home to the largest population of free people of color during the era of slavery, which led to the first instances of people of color creating bands and actually being able to be paid for their performances. So that culture is something that we would love to be able to share with our students here at Bangor. On this trip, we would do several different music-related activities, including catching a few live performances, going to the National Jazz Museum, attending a clinic or workshop at one of the universities down in New Orleans, and actually getting some one-on-one experience with true jazz music, which we don't get a ton of around here in the northern part of the country. So there are a lot of other educational aspects that we would visit on this trip, such as visiting the National World War II Museum that is there, visiting several other major historical sites that are located down there. As far as the trip itself, we know that it's a little difficult right now to plan out a year in advance. So we have looked at the refund options, the cancellation options, in case we would need to cancel this trip once it has started in the motions of getting it scheduled and payments coming in. According to the refund and the cancellation policy from the company we use, Sunshine Travel, if we cancel a month before, up to a month before our supposed departure date. So if we cancel by March 11th, that's the month before April. If we cancel by March 11th, we will be able to get a 100% refund of the money that parents and students pay directly out of pocket. So that gives us a little extra breathing room, a little extra window of security with that. That is some of the basic parts of my information. Are there any questions or anything else you want to know from me about this proposed trip?
So are we including, well, I guess it's all band and choir, so it doesn't matter the years they are in, it's all open to any year that they're in music, correct?
It's open to high school students, so
Oh,
ninth
I'm
through
sorry,
12th.
yep, okay.
So when I read the back of the terms and the conditions, you were just talking about cancellations.
It doesn't look like.
And
it's
so
the
on
same.
7, on D, it gives you percentages, but it doesn't say that they'll get back that money after 30 days. Are they gonna write a different document? Or is that just what they gave you?
The reason that, yes, there are those little stipulations in there, but with some of the extra money that is sitting in our activity accounts, we are going to be able to cover that miscellaneous money that they may not get back, whatever that percentage is, because of how we are going to be able to likely handle that situation with that extra money from the fundraised money that students weren't able to use for the previous trip. So technically from the company, we wouldn't get it, but we would be able to get all of the money back for those who had paid in.
So Sunshine might get some money back, but you're just gonna cover what any individual would have lost.
Yes.
And I assume you have interest from the students?
Yes, we did an interest survey about a week and a half ago, and we don't have responses from every student yet. Not everyone turned in their forms, but just from the students who turned in their forms, we have just shy of 40 students interested, saying that they are planning on attending the trip if it is available.
Well, pre-COVID, they were pretty amazing trips, so I'd like to
Yeah.
hope that we can do it.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Brittany?
Are we looking to approve this or we're just, okay. So how was the cancellation of the last trip and the refund with that? Was that good or was that not successful?
It took a while, but
It took a while, but that was not really the fault of the company. I do have to defend them on that. It was a lot of money being held up by the companies such as Disney and Universal that held up a lot of the money, but the company worked very hard for us, and we were able to get a full refund of the out-of-pocket money that was paid on that trip to every single student and chaperone that was planning on attending.
Okay, so
So-
the company was good. Parents
Yep.
were satisfied with what came out of that. Okay. And I'm sure everybody already knows the risks and where we sit, so I'm good.
Any other questions?
I would move to approve for the band and choir program to proceed with planning under the understanding that everyone will know that there's a chance it may not happen.
Second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve the continual planning of the music trip for spring of 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you for planning this.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, next, approval of the minutes, February 17th, 2021, open session.
I move to approve.
Who was that? Joni?
I'll second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the February 17th, 2021 open session minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 23rd, 2021 open session.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve February 23rd, 2021 open session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 23rd, 2021 closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve February 23rd, 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of the financials. Start with the vouchers.
So I received a question from Lori and I responded to her and, or Lori, you said that you were, okay. So I didn't receive any other, but again, if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them on the vouchers.
I'll move to approve the vouchers.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve the vouchers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Activity account.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Lori to approve the activity account. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Financial report.
And you'll find that on page 21. Thank you. And so just a few things on that. Under receipts on A, State of Wisconsin, number 1, special ed and school age parents, $36,184. That's 15% of what we receive. Number 3, educator effectiveness. That's actually a grant. That is our teacher observation tool, but we receive a grant to cover the cost of that. Under C, property taxes, you look at the various townships and their payments to the school district. So thank you to them. Under D, number 2, summer food service program. And that's $61,724.65. Angie and I were talking about this, and this again was partly the program is, again, as you know, a federal program, but it also, because of COVID, they did a number of different things in order to get food to students. The reimbursement rate for this has been basically, when she compares it on a monthly basis, is double than what we've received normally. So that will very much help, you know, Fund 50, which is our food service program. So at this point, it sounds like it will continue for the next months. In fact, our food service director told me that it may go through even this summer. So good news in terms of reimbursement. So we have a total revenue of $933,572.04. Total expenditures, $633,734. $5.35. So balance on hand, March 11th, $1,036,404.55. So questions on the financial report?
I do have one question, Dave. You said on the summer food service program there,
Yep.
is that going to be a monthly, payments be made monthly, or how is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Well, let me go back on that, Shelley, because actually this amount is for 2 months, this 61,000. So usually we average about 15,000 a month in a normal year, okay? Normal before COVID. So, so what we've been receiving on a monthly basis on average has been 30,000, so double, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve the financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to old business committee reports. No committee meetings. Board president's agenda, school nurse report.
Tammy was unavailable to be here tonight, so I've got a pretty brief report. First of all, good news that we, at this time, we do not have any positive cases in the school. So good news in that respect. Vaccination clinic. Tomorrow, our staff will receive their first dose of COVID vaccination. We have an early release at 1 o'clock of students, and then the clinic takes place from 2 to 4. We have 60 staff members that are getting vaccinated. The remainder of the staff members either were vaccinated under 1A, they qualified under 1A, and then we encouraged, just like a lot of districts, that if staff were able to get their vaccinations other places during, before this, to do that. So a number were able to. And so, but at this point, we have 60, which is still a solid number. And so as I said, 2 to 4 tomorrow. And then I just found out late last week that the second dose will be April 8th, again, 2 to 4. And so we're hoping tomorrow will go well. Again, this is done by Health Direct Pharmacy out of La Crosse, and that's the same pharmacy that West Salem is using for their, and they've also done other districts, including West Salem and Bangor. So questions?
We already approved the second early release, didn't we?
No, we will do that
Oh, I was
next
So
agenda item.
the next we
okay.
approved tomorrow.
Because
The
when,
next item.
yeah, because I just wanted to say that at
Oh,
that
you
Joni,
finish your report.
when he originally got the first date, they were still trying to figure out when the second date
Okay.
was going to be. So that was after you guys approved the first date. So
Any other Tammy report? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the early release for April 8th for the staff to receive their second COVID vaccination. And that early release would be at what time, Dave? 2?
1 o'clock
Oh,
for
1 o'clock,
students.
okay.
And then the clinic again will run from 2 to 4.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve early release for April 8th for staff COVID vaccination clinic. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, school board candidates for April general election. So the election is Tuesday, April 6th. Tina Matheson, Village of Rockland, running unopposed. Lisa Horseman, at large, running unopposed. Incumbent Lori Horseman is running with Seth Hemmerspach for the Village of Bangor. April 6th, your vote, your voice. Tuesday, April 6th. We also need to appoint Board of Canvassers for April board election. I know in the past it's been Joni, no, excuse me, Jean. Oh. Jody. I know it was a J. Jody and Jean. And then usually it's our clerk, and that is Lori. And that's not recommended because she is on the ballot. So I'm going to ask if Shelley would be willing to. Okay, so we need a motion to appoint Shelley for our Board of Canvassers for the April board minutes.
And Jean
Election,
and Jody.
excuse me.
So-
And all of them,
Yes.
right? Jean and Jody as well.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni to approve Board of Canvassers, Jody Kotak, Jean Reigel, and Shelley Piskey for the April election, or April board election. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. So next on the agenda is setting a special meeting for the public hearing on the DPI statutory requirements per Wisconsin state statutes for the waiver of instructional hours per the Wisconsin statute. Dave has some information in your packet, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Dave?
So thanks, Julie. So basically what we're doing is, and a lot of districts have done this because of COVID anyway, and just because of the uncertainty that what that has brought. So in addition, we are asking, because if you go to page 24, we are required by the state to have 1,137 hours for 6, 7, 12, 1050 for grades K through 6, and then 437 for half-day kindergarten. So we have had some cancellations. On February 11th, we had a snow day. And then on the 12th and the 15th, we had 2-hour late starts because of weather. And then on February 26th was state girls basketball. And then for the listed for the early releases on March 18th and 8th for the COVID clinic. And then we also have an early release the last day, which we've always done, get out at 11:30. So right now that puts us at 1,141 hours. So to be on the safe side, we'll ask for this waiver with your permission. And again, if we don't need it, that's fine, but it's being proactive. And I said, as a lot of districts have applied. And again, because of COVID, they've been approved. So in your packet also is the statutes that pertain to that. So the one thing that we need to do is hold a public hearing. And so I talked to Bob about this, or emailed to be exact. So we can hold the board meeting as an agenda item that evening. You can do it either way, but if you hold a separate meeting before, then you have to, that night, you have to wait until, let's say if we started at 6 o'clock and it only took 5 minutes because there's nobody, you have to wait till 6:30 to start the regular meeting. So you can make it an agenda item. So what we would do that evening, my recommendation would be that call the meeting to order and then have the public hearing piece. And the public hearing, simply we present the information while we're asking for it, take any public comment that might be out there, and then vote on it, either approve or not approve. And so my recommendation is to make it part of the meeting, our regular April 21st meeting, as part of the agenda. Questions? Yes, I need a motion. Yeah, is our regular meeting.
But this is just applying for the waiver, and
Ye-
then in April, we would approve it.
No, that's
Oh.
in April, we would, you'd approve the waiver. And then what it is, Tina, it's very, very easy. It's a Google Doc that I send into the DPI and then they approve it. So we do that in April.
So this is just to approve having a special meeting to do that.
Correct. So the public is informed, and then again, when we publish the agenda, that will be on there. So they're aware there's a public hearing to ask for a waiver of instructional hours.
But the point is, it's not going to be a special meeting. It's going to be an agenda item at our
Yes.
regular meeting, so we don't have to do it on a different night.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Just wanted to make that clear.
I will make a motion that we place the special, the waiver for instruction as an agenda item for the April 21st board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Joni, all in favor,
Aye.
Hi.
opposed? Motion carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent search. We had a meeting last night. We chose 6 interviewees. We start our first round of interviews next Monday on Monday, March 22nd, and Thursday, March 25th. We will begin both of those at 5:30. Computer lease. John?
John, I'll introduce it real quick. This is informational tonight only. We are asking for no action. If the information that John shares sounds good to you, then we would bring it back to the April 21st meeting. So the background was after John, after you approved the iPad lease, Apple came back to him and said, what about laptops for staff? And so John came to me and said, should we look at this? And then what we thought is, in terms of the financial part of it, it was very attractive because what we do is we allocate approximately $20,000 per year for staff laptops. And so John has it on a rotational basis. And so when people are up, then we order whatever number of computers for that year. Well, the way this lease would work would allow us to refresh it on a more consistent basis. So John, if you want to give more details and go from there.
Okay, thank you, Dave. First, I want to update you on the iPad lease. The iPads were ordered on March 5th. They said 4 to 6 weeks delivery, so around April 2nd to the 16th, they should be in. And so while I'm waiting for that, we're doing, like I'm ordering the cases for the iPads, got to get those ordered. That's about approximately 2 to 3 weeks to get those. And then I'm doing our iPad management software. It's called Jamf software. I'm doing a migration over to that to change it from a standalone server here at school to a cloud server. So I'm in the process of doing that too. So that's the update on the iPad lease situation. In regards to the computers, then, like Dave said, they approached me and I looked at it on the 5-year plan. I'm like, man, sounds good to me. So I checked into it a little bit. Like Dave said, it's same price as what we had every year replacing computers as what the cost of a lease would be. So, and the advantage of a lease, as you know, everybody can get new computers all at once instead of so many getting them each year, which we're currently doing. So everybody would get the computers all at once, and then we replace them just like the iPads every 3 or 4 years. Laptops tend to go a little bit longer, but it's just up to when we get to around year 3, we can decide what we want to do at that point. So what I'm doing right now is currently just checking over our software and our hardware compatibility to make sure that these new laptops, computers will work with the smart boards, the Promethean boards, and the software that the teachers currently have. Because the last thing I want to do is have a bunch of computers here and then none of that works with what we have. So that was my plan right now at this point, to check into that and see if they will work. Just like the iPads, if we go ahead with this lease, I can take the old laptops and sell them to a vendor or sell them to our local public, just like we would do with the iPads. And I forgot to mention on the iPads, I actually got a local vendor. Dave kind of mentioned that at the last month's meeting. It's called Gaming Generations out of Alaska. I talked to the owner, and he was willing to come here and do the sale. And whenever we don't sell to the local public, we pretty much guarantee him to, sell him the rest of the iPads. And he was good with that. And he will give us the same price as what the other companies quoted us. So the same thing would happen with the older laptops if we decide to go with this computer lease for laptops. So anyway, if you agree, I would do more research on if it's compatible with what we currently have in the classrooms and our software that the teachers are using.
So John, would this lease be for 3 or 4 years, or is there a 3 to 4 you said?
Yeah, they quoted it for 3 years.
Okay.
Are our teachers currently on Apple products or, I mean, so
Yes,
we're
all
not
of them.
really,
All of them are on Apple products. Yes.
okay. I mean, to me, it sounds like there's not really much to lose, but is there any downside to any of it? Obviously, if something doesn't, as you said, migrate over, but I mean, can
Right.
you see any downfall?
No.
I didn't think so.
Another advantage I forgot to mention too is that you will know every year then, you have this lease payment, just like you do the iPads. So it's not a surprise, if something happens. So,
And so if we can make them go 4 years, obviously that's just a win for us. We would skip a year.
right. I mean, if they do make the lease for 3 years, we can still keep the computers.
Right.
Just like the iPads you purchase for $1 and they're yours to keep. So,
But if we go forward with it, I'd like to confirm that if the price is for 3 years, if we want to say 4, let's see if that affects the cost.
sure.
Because it's in their best interest to turn them over.
Yep, definitely. And of course, the interest rates are really super low right now. So,
I also have one request. When we sell those iPads, not only do I think we need to contact our students and staff, but I think all taxpayers within, we need to do a mass mail out so that they all have first dibs.
correct. Yes.
Good idea, Tina.
And Tina, that was one of the things with this company that we emphasized. And the good thing again about this company is in the past, our own staff would have to handle all of that, getting them ready, selling. And so this company will do that. But yes, priority will be students, staff, and community first. And then if there are any left, then he would take them and sell them, outside. So
I just want to make sure that the people that aren't in school or not here, that they're still contacted, especially.
And I assume we'll have a limit. Nobody can come in and buy 10 of them.
Correct. Yes.
Any other questions for John? So we're not going to make a motion, but our recommendation is to continue to investigate, into the, like you said, the compatibility of what we have and what we're using and all of our educational tools that we use to make sure it all works.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in April.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item, use of facilities by outside groups. That's on page 30, 31, and 32.
Okay, so thank you, Julie. Yes, on page 30, a sheet that you've seen before, but with updated recommendations. And I do want to draw your attention to, again, our first priority is keeping our kids in school going forward now that they're back in person. So that is at the center of all that we're doing. So as you know, that we did allow Bangor students to start using facilities. I want to say that's going well. I know that Jean, Rick, Mike have done a lot of work in terms of getting those things in places. The groups that have used it have been very receptive. the cleaning, the protocols, all of that. So I want to, thank them for that. So our recommendation this month, as you see, is to allow outside groups that are affiliated with the school. And I give some examples: PTO, Music Backers, Booster Club, and community groups such as Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, 4-H, that have Bangor students, and that's a key thing, to use the facilities as long as a group size is 15 or less. I think right now, keeping it manageable sizes is very important, and it's in line with the athletic groups, which tend to be 15 or less. And again, the protocols, if it's a group wants to use it, they would be trained by our maintenance staff before the first time they use a facility. The other thing that we'd like to put in place for that is, for those types of groups, we want to confine it to certain areas just because of, it's easier to keep track of, the sanitation, everything. So for the elementary, we would look at if any of those types of groups want to use it, limited to either the multi-purpose room or the LMC. If it's the middle school, high school, we would use the LMC here. Again, that way, instead of, okay, one group uses the science group, the science room one time, then they use the Spanish group another time. I think if we can limit it to those areas, it'll be much safer in terms of sanitation and keeping track of that. So that is our recommendation. Mike or Rick, do you have anything to add on that? And then I would just point on page 32 is the criteria that we agreed to at the previous meeting. So questions?
Need a motion to approve.
Yes, if there are no questions, yes, Juliet,
Yeah.
please.
Any questions?
I'm gonna go back to just one question, and it's number 7. We're still going, they have to be in the same grade, is that correct? Just so everybody knows that when they request it, they have to be in the same grade, so.
That's what we've done up to this point, Tina. I don't know if you
Okay.
want to have some discussion on that, but
Nope,
I'm just asking, I was gonna ask the same question, similar, like Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, all
Oh.
that, those are all gonna be different grade
Yeah,
levels. You're not
that's
gonna
true.
have, so
that's true.
Yep.
Yep, I didn't think. Good point. I honestly didn't think of that when I. Well, if we keep the group size small, that's a benefit. So, if you did want to look at mixing grade levels, which, yeah, would be the case, I guess, with Cub Scout, Girl Scouts, 4-H. If you want to do that, then I think we have to then look at the athletic piece of it too.
well, how much usage did we have this last month? Like, did you get requests? Were there? But these weren't even approved then, so you wouldn't have gotten these requests, so it doesn't even apply, I guess.
But there is athletic usage since last meeting.
Okay, and those are grade levels.
So have we been turning away a lot of people? Have there been a lot of requests denied?
So if, let's just say the Girl Scouts come here, they would all wear masks. I mean, they'd follow all of our
Protocols,
guidelines.
yep.
Of course, we're not going to be here monitoring that, but that would be up to their adult leader. I mean, what the science is telling us now, I honestly think if they're wearing masks, I think mixing a group like that would be okay. But I guess it's up to us.
So you talking mixing a group as in basically select groups or?
Like Girl Scouts.
Okay, so you're just talking to select groups can mix ages, but everyone else cannot.
I don't think we can do that.
I
I
don't-
think we gotta be
yep.
one way or the other.
Yep.
We
So I'm
can't
not,
be middle of the road.
like, what do you mean?
You
mean like,
can't tell sports, they can't have 2 grade levels together, but another
Oh, I see what
organization
you're
can.
saying.
It's gotta
Right.
be
Well,
one
I
or the
thought
other.
that would be with this as well then. like basketball, that they would, third and fourth could practice together.
So we're
Well-
looking at removing number 7.
And again, I think when we're talking about mixing athletic teams, it's not necessarily that, okay, the third and fourth grade want to practice together. It's that, okay, we have a fourth grade team, but we don't have enough to make a team. So you pull up 3 third graders. That's how I'm
Yeah.
interested.
And, I agree with you. We have to be one way or the other. I was just assuming that they would be able to mix as well. But maybe that's not the thoughts.
I mean, if you keep the number small to 15, to me, that's also a little easier to contract trace than saying, I'm gonna let 40 people in here or whatever. So
That's what I was looking at too. Yeah, if we do remove 7 with only one grade level, you still have the numbers thing. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever way we want to do that.
I just think if we're ready, I think you almost have to, because you're gonna have that third grade team that has one fourth grader or one second, whatever. And you're gonna have the Boy Scouts, you're gonna have the
It's
Girl
been
Scouts.
for years. It's been like that.
And as long as we, again, maintain the 15 count and
Yeah.
all the other protocols, I would be okay with removing that.
And then we need to keep those records and know who's together, so we can report that to the nurse in case something happens. Yes, I mean,
Yeah, nothing changes that way.
So right now, are we documenting who's here, when they're here? A list of this people here?
The coaches and advisors are asked to do that for each
Okay.
of their groups, yes.
Okay. And we would need to do the same, like if a 4-H came in, we'd need to have those names.
Yes. Yeah, because as you said, Lori, I think you said that if there's any contact tracing to be done, Tammy would need those names, so.
Yeah, and we definitely need to be consistent with whatever the groups are doing. If they're sitting, if they're playing basketball, whatever it is.
I know there was concern with keeping the school open and not getting kids together and not doing that, but I'm just trying to justify the differences, that's all. So if there are concerns, I would love to hear them, but it was just my first question when I looked at it.
After hearing the conversation and everything, I feel comfortable with, again, if the group size stays 15 or less, and then number 7, taking that out, because we will, if we allow, again, Cub Scouts, whoever their group, it's multi levels. I'm okay with number 7 eliminating then.
And realistically, the number of groups that are going to come in with 15 is pretty high. I mean, if people aren't comfortable, then get rid of the grade levels and put it to 10, but even 15, I don't know. I think that's,
Say that again, Tina.
I mean, if we're concerned with the kids getting together, you could change the group size to 10 if that's better. I don't think you're going to have that big of groups that come in. I mean, Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts, and I mean, I don't know that they're that.
There's only so much time to be allowed anyway. I mean, it's not like you're gonna all of a sudden open the door and have 25 groups coming in, because there's just not the time or the space, so.
If it doesn't work, then we change it next month, I guess.
Right.
is-
Yeah, that's right.
We're not locked into anything long-term.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we make the revisions to the outside group policy and strike number 7 on the criteria.
Second,
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Lori to make the changes with the facility to outside groups with striking of number 7 on page 32. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, referendum presentation and dates.
Okay. The handouts, pages 33 through 39. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them. I just highlight a few things. First of all, on pages 33 to 36 is the brochure that's on the website. Also, it will be sent out next week to all district residents. And so, and obviously I will cover a lot of that information in our referendum presentation next Tuesday at 6:30. And I just want to emphasize again that that referendum presentation will start at 6:30, and the public obviously is invited. If you are not able to make it in terms of in person, it will be broadcast on our YouTube channel. So please take advantage of that. And again, I will go through a lot of information that night, a PowerPoint that gives quite a bit more detail. And so please mark that on your calendars, our public, Tuesday, March 23rd at 6:30. And again, more information can be found on our website. Finally, in terms of the vote, and Julie and a couple of the board members that were at our township meetings heard this over and over, this because this is how I finish it. Make your vote and voice heard on April 6th. And then finally on page 39, I just want to point out, oh, by the way, page 37 and 38 and 39 were what I presented with a little more detail on the sheets here to the townships. I do want to tell you that the township and village meetings went well. Not a lot of questions, but again, very, very interested in the information. And so I don't know, Julie, Tina, Lori, because we did Village of Bangor and Rockland last Tuesday, Town of Burns on Wednesday, and then Monday night we did Town of Bangor. So I don't know if you want to add anything, but again, they went, in my opinion, they went well.
From my take, I think it was great. Dave did a great job at the two that I was at and the information. I don't think you had questions because you covered everything. But I think their reception was good, and it was a lot of information. So I think it helped.
Agree.
So then on page 39, what I did at the township meetings is gave a partial list of what the referendum, the 2019-22 referendum paid for. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. It's also, it's not stating that referendum dollars paid for all of this. There were matching funds, specifically like for security. We did get security grants, but again, without referendum money, a lot of these things would have not been able to be put in place. I will do the same thing, come up with, I've put the list together. I'm just running it through the administration. I am going to do the same for the 22-25 referendum that lists more specific information, what the referendum will be used for in terms of support. And that will also go on the website. And then I will talk more about that at the referendum presentation on Tuesday night. So, questions?
Any questions for Dave? Okay.
Thank you.
Correspondence? Okay. CISA 4 report, that would be me. We met March 3rd at CISA. Amanda Langer gave a presentation on her program, career or college career life ready. It was very good about CISA and the work that she has done. It was really very interesting and very helpful, for our students and their future lives, the work that she does. And other than that, pretty regular items. DPI is changing some of their work with CISA. Like currently, there's a DPI person that hooks up with each CISA agency, and they're doing some work with that. They're kind of reallocating some budgeting. So, but no worries. Kiel, the administrator at CISA, said, you know, it will be fine. So, but other than that, not anything big. Any questions? Okay, administrative reports, Mr. Chaplin.
Thanks, Julie. So the first thing on there is the ACT administration, and that was done on March 9th. It went well. All students were tested, CRVA students included. And I'd particularly like to thank Ms. Schultz, as she has to be the person that handles all of them because I coach sports, so I can't handle those. Mr. Mullenberg, Mrs. Thoyer, Ms. Roscovius, Mrs. Adams, Mrs. Peterson, Genunzio, Mr. Grant, and Mrs. Radke, they do the facilitation of those tests. And so, like I said, and the custodial staff as well for setting up the rooms and all those things. So students should get those results in 6 to 8 weeks, and the students will get those results before the school. So school will probably get those results in June, July, and then you guys can know about them maybe next year. See, depending how fast DPI gets those out. And then we're in the swing of testing season. The forward exam and ACT Aspire is the next thing up for students. Again, ACT Aspire is for 9th and 10th grade as by Wisconsin state statute. And as well as sophomores also take the social studies portion of the forward exam because that is not on the ACT Aspire. And that's per statute as well. And then grades 3 through 8 will be doing the forward exam. And the ACT Aspire is timed similar to the ACT. The forward exam is untimed. There's suggested times that the forward is saying is about how long it takes, but again, it's untimed. So we're doing our best to block off the chunks to do that. We did set the middle school forward dates. I believe Mike is still working on specific dates with his staff for the forward, and we will be working on setting dates for the Aspire by the end of the week. And you can see the testing windows on that. The ELL testing did get extended another month. I believe it's through May 21st. That was part of DPI's request waiver to the federal government to waive that testing. So I think they extended that window because the federal government has 90 days to respond to that waiver. And they did that waiver back in February. So if we won't have to test those kids and take them out of class, we probably won't do that. So we're just kind of in a holding mode at this point. Any questions on everyone's favorite state testing?
Josh, I have a question regarding the open position you're going to have in your area. Has that been posted?
Which position?
Carrie's position.
Oh, speech and language.
Yeah.
We did post that last week, I believe.
Okay.
So, and I haven't looked to see how many candidates. I'm not assuming that it's flooded with candidates, but
I just knew that would be a hard one to fill. So
it hopefully it won't, but they are in high demand. Last I looked for open positions, there were like 25 open positions in the state and 3 in our region, our CISA region, before including us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Chaplin? Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Julie. I just want to give an overview of conferences were held virtually this spring, and proud to say that 91% of our parents met with their child's teacher. I think that's a really high number. Did talk to the PTO the other night about their preference and just had a really good dialogue just between the small group we had. And, really just do parents want that as an option moving forward? And overall, the parents really do miss coming into the elementary school and seeing all the work and all the stuff and that. So that came out loud and clear. But there was also a liking of the option, and we could probably do something a hybrid type scenario moving forward. Obviously, we'll talk about that more in the fall, but I was pretty happy with the amount of turnout that we had. I asked the board to approve the part-time interventionist that we talked about last month. This is a Tuesday, Thursday position from 8 till 12:30. Michelle Lorenz was the only candidate for that position. She is currently our Monday, Wednesday part-time 4K teacher. She does not work on Tuesday and Thursday, so filling in, focus on our primary students that need some additional assistance, and ask the board to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve Michelle Lorenz Tuesday, or excuse me, as a part-time, for the part-time interventionist.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve Michelle Lorenz for a part-time interventionist at our elementary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Read Across America Week. If you saw me out there in front with my cat and hat on for the entire week last week, but certainly got the attention of all the little kids that never get out of the car seats because when they drive by, that was kind of fun. But anyway, a number of parents went along with our themes, different days, different themes, and shared with me just how they were using our themes and to expand the time that they spend reading as a family, which ultimately that's a win. That was pretty exciting to hear. Just unprovoked comments by parents driving by and that kind of thing. PTO aligned, since they've really had a hard time with COVID trying to do the normal activities that they do. They support our school greatly, and our staff and our classrooms. They've bolstered our reading collections. They've given students their own books multiple times to take home. It's just a great organization that does a lot to help us out. And you can see that they actually did something new this year. They had actually reached out to a couple other school districts about a readathon fundraiser, and they aligned it up with on March 2nd, which is Dr. Seuss's birthday. And we read all kinds of Doctor's cat and hat stuff that day and everything else. And I thank Rick and Dave and Kelly Laufenberg for reading recorded readings that were shared across the school. They worked with a website, readathon website company to raise $4,145, of which the PTO receives $3,350, which is in one day. That's a pretty amazing for that small of a group. And I think that was great. They voted on Monday night to cover the cost of our Friday folders for our entire school. They've done that for years. And as well as buying yearbooks for staff members. Sad news that Sarah Reitz is stepping down as the PTO president, but an honest thank you to her for all the many, many, many years that she did that job. I know Jackie worked with her closely for all those years, and she'll have one child at each building, let's say. So she's like, sports are gonna engulf a lot of what she does. She has been great to work with, and I thank her for her time and dedication to the PTO group, and we'll see what we can do. And I brought up that maybe in the near future we could get back to meeting in person at the library at the elementary school. So that'll be good. Thank you, Sarah, for all your efforts. I just got a phone call the other day. The fire department auxiliary last year donated some money to us. and in collaboration with the Knights of Columbus. So they reached out to us again this year to do the same. And it looks like we're going to get support for our elementary school backpack program. Now, Steph Steiner is running all the logistics on that. I just want to give a shout out to her and her efforts. She has taken the money that's been donated by various groups and taken a dry good backpack program and purchased different meat products or dairy products, whatever the theme. Organic Valley donated some money, so she went with the dairy theme to support that industry, and has reached out to companies like Craig's Meats, Brock's Butcher Block, Hanson's IGA, have been super supportive in bringing a fresh spin to the backpack program. So we'll continue to use those donations that have come in, and I'd like to thank the Knights of Columbus and the Fire Department Auxiliary for their supports. A summer school update, reached out to staff about staffing that. Currently, we're at 7 teachers that are are wanting to teach summer school. I see this as a huge hurdle this year, and it's not just this is not going to be just a Bangor challenge. This is a challenge across the country on whether staff are going to have the energy to do summer school or not. But we're planning on holding summer school on July 12th through the end of the month, July 30th. So, and then just upcoming events, like Josh said, forward exam, our CRVA students. So we have 9 CRVA students at the elementary level, grades 3 through 5. And actually only 4 of them will be testing through the forward. 5 of their parents have opted them out. Thank you to Kathy Coulterman and Joyce Schaller for organizing that. Students will be coming into our computer lab on the 23rd and the 25th to complete that testing.
In a typical year of summer school, how many teachers do you have?
20 or 30.
That's what I thought.
And that's of the 7 that I have right now, half of them are at the middle high school area. So
We've had a lot of conversations. I Zoom weekly with the Scenic Bluffs, and then I also Zoom with La Crosse County superintendents. And this is, like Mike said, a common theme. Schools are really struggling to get teachers. And so, a lot of thinking outside of the box, what we can do, because if we can't staff it, I mean, it's not good for the kids. And it's always important to have summer school, both for enrichment and for remediation, but more than ever, I think, especially the remediation part, because of what, the last year has been, is so important. But as Mike said, it's going to be a real challenge to get teachers. We may be bringing ideas that we're hearing from other schools and to the meetings coming up, because we've got a fully staffed summer school.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson?
I guess I just have a question about that. When you talk about having a summer school teacher, I know that remediation, obviously those learning things, for a teacher, as far as the enrichment things, is there any way to tap into maybe anyone in the community that might want to volunteer, or a business that might have, or is that not acceptable?
licensed teachers.
License?
Yeah, licensed
Okay.
teachers.
Got it.
I think for like supports, like let's say 4K, they have a para support in there with them. That's not a licensed teacher, but certainly you want your best and most talented working with the kids that need the.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the enrichment stuff, that kind of thing that
Yeah.
would be, but that's fine.
It's
I
the
just didn't
supervision
know.
of kids side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just thinking outside the box.
Anything else for Mr. Johnson? Okay, Mr. Mullenberg.
Thank you, Julie. First, I would ask for approval of Michelle Evenson for the position of middle high school kitchen manager. She was interviewed last week. That was the only candidate that applied.
And she's been A sub, correct?
She has been at the elementary school.
Elementary.
So Michelle right now works part-time at the elementary, is that correct? Okay. So she knows our school. She's worked here.
Yep, and she filled in for Colleen when she was gone on medical leave as well.
So
Oh,
Michelle, I just wanted a little, I think Michelle's been here 5 years and I think it's about 5.5 hours a day. So
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve Michelle Evenson for the position of middle high school cook.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve Michelle Evenson for the position of middle high school cook for our food service. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. An update on our fall, or actually our spring sports spectator guidelines. The conference decided, and we've gone along with 4 spectators per participant for volleyball. And it was also decided that for football be unlimited as long as people are masked. Since it's outdoors, Walk Center is the only exception. They're only allowing 2 for volleyball. And then for our own, any volleyball at the elementary school, since the bleachers are smaller, only one side, we're allowing 2 each as well. So a little bit update there. As far as cross country, our conference all ran in the fall except for us. So I know there's a couple of meets that Kevin was looking at getting. There was one with a Madison school, but a lot of schools for cross country we're finding right now want to go somewhere else, not host. So he's still working on that as well, and they'll be allowed to have, as long as they're masked, unlimited as well. So more of an informational. Dave, did anything else on that?
no, not on spectator. We did talk also about looking ahead a little bit in terms of track. Obviously, we want to have track meets here, but I know one of the things that Kevin is concerned about is, as you know, when you host track meets, it's a lot of people working. And so we're just concerned that if we host meets, being able to get workers, and just because of the situation. So please stay tuned for that. I mean, we're going to do everything we can regarding that, but just looking forward on that. So,
And I know the WIA right now is talking about only having roughly up to 3 teams for track meets, but that may change. And then that season also goes to, like, state is around June 20th. So that's why if we host any meets in June, it'd be especially difficult to get workers for sure.
When does track start?
It's in early May. There's a little bit of an overlap with football in there. Volleyball will be done previous to girls track starting though. Parent teacher conferences, we did have 359 individual conferences. They were virtual. That's down from the fall where we were just over 500. Typically at the middle high school, it is less in the spring. I don't have any data from last year. They were canceled before we could do those. So the feedback we received as well is similar to Mike, where as parents, there are some that wanted them in person. They would like to see that. And then there's others that like the flexibility of doing them virtual. So we'll discuss that as we move forward as well. Upcoming events. We're looking at, we have our band and choir concert scheduled for middle and high school. They've been scheduled for a long time. So we're looking at how we would do that. We're looking at our senior banquets and academic awards and all of those, and as well as graduation. So we're preliminarily looking at, we want to host those and have people, but looking at sizes and numbers, and if the virus continues to go down, the vaccinations go up. So those right now preliminarily, we're having a lot of discussions on that. And I did today with all the conference principals as well, and they're doing the same thing. So I talked to Brittany and Ross about band and choir. We would do different nights for middle and high school, and it might be limited attendance, but we would stream everything as well. So they've been working on those things. So it's exciting that we're able to do these things for sure.
Any questions for Mr. Mullenberg?
So if I ask a question about the consent agenda, does that take it off the consent agenda? Well, just some of these classes aren't, I'm just curious about a couple of them. To me, they look like classes we have or have, like world history and general psychology and personal finance. Aren't they classes we have?
They are, students have had options before when they didn't fit in their schedule.
Okay,
Usually it's conflicts with that.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Mullenberg? Okay, Mr. Lane.
Thanks, Julie. Number one, approve open enrollment alternative applications. I don't have any this month, so no action needed. Number two, Governor Evers proposed K-12 budget. If you go in your packet, page 47, I'm not going to go through line by line, but I do just want to point out at the bottom of page 47, the big items obviously in his budget. So obviously there will be a lot of discussion on the budget over the next biennium budget over the next months. Again, don't be surprised if it drags on into summer and into the fall. But this is what Governor Evers is asking for. First bullet point, total K-12 increase of 1.65 billion over the biennium. Special education aid, provide a $709 million increase over the biennium, which will allow for 45% reimbursement, and 50% in 2022-23. Right now, we're about at 26%. So obviously, any increase in that area would be beneficial. General aid provides 612.8 million increase over the biennium. Next bullet point, revenue limits increase per pupil adjustment 200 in 2021-22 and 204 in 22-23. That's what was approved in the last biennium budget. And so obviously that would be very helpful to all districts if that goes through. Next, low revenue ceiling, set the low revenue adjustment to at 10,250 in 2021-22 and 10,500 in 22-23. That would affect us because remember, we were a low spending district. So we benefited over the last biennium budget by that increasing. So right now we're at 10,000. So again, increase in those areas would definitely be a benefit to our district. Per pupil aid, which is a set aside at $750 per pupil each year. That would add additional 75 per economically disadvantaged students. So one of the areas that I think there's always been a push for is where there's students that are disadvantaged, high poverty rates, look at some categorical aid that helps in those respects. So again, there will be a lot of discussion, a lot of give and take, I'm sure, over the next months in the biennium budget. But obviously, we were hopeful that while he may not be able to get everything, that it's some, which would be beneficial to all districts through the state of Wisconsin. So wanted to highlight Governor Evers' budget. Next, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, ESSER 2 and 3. If you go to pages 49 and through 51, again, I'm not going to go through this. If you go to page 51 in particular, so I just want to remind the board and our community that it's federal stimulus money, so it's one-time funding. So when it's done, it's done. So as ESSER 1, we received 108,000, ESSER 2, 434,000. And again, these are very tentative, and that's why I highlighted ESSER 3, which is following the new stimulus that was just passed. We have been told that it would be double tentatively, so we're waiting to see. of what ESSER two was. So if that was the case, we'd get over 860,000. In that one, and I forgot to mention, ESSER two has to be spent by 2023. ESSER one is through 2022, September 22. ESSER two is 23, and ESSER three by September 24. And again, the biggest thing with when we talk about ESSER is preparedness and response to COVID. And in particular, I want to highlight, they talk continually about two areas: addressing learning loss. So among students, so whether that's programming, whether that's service, whether it's staffing, but that has been a central theme. The other central theme is anything that school facility can do in terms of repairs and improvements for the risk of virus transmission. So there's lots of different ideas about there how that money can be used. Then finally, I just want to go down to the bottom where it says ESSER three uses. And again, we still haven't received a ton of information yet on that. But one of the things that we have heard is that with ESSER three, that you must use a minimum of 20% of those funds to address learning loss among students. So again, look for more information. As I get that, tomorrow we have what's called a school improvement meeting with CISA, and hopefully we're going to get some more ideas what ESSER three is looking like in terms of categories, because again, there's a lot of flexibility. I will say, not just in ESSER, we're waiting to see what ESSER three will look like, but from the DPI, they said there will be a lot of flexibility. So look for more on that in the coming board meetings. So
I have a question, Dave.
yes.
So ESSER one, there was 108,000. Can you get us something that shows ESSER one, yes, it was spent on this, but how much for each one? So we know where we're at
Sure.
with those funds?
Yep.
Same thing with like two, and then it just would be nice to know what we've already spent
Yep.
versus what we still need to spend
Right.
or want to spend, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, because it's a use it or lose it, so.
Yep.
And
I can tell you, Lori, that ESSER one, we spent on CRVA, Cooley Region Virtual Academy, because that was something that, again, as you know, and we're so thankful we were in on that, because as I said previously, we would have lost approximately 50 students if we wouldn't have had that as an option. So that money went to the Cooley Region Virtual Academy for that. So, but in terms of ESSER two, yes, we can definitely put together what we've spent so far and go from there. So
thank you.
And then number 4 waiver, we actually talked about that. So we're down to celebrations.
Celebrations. Well, I want to congratulate the girls basketball team. Played a hard fought state game at the lacrosse center. I was unable to be there, and I don't ever miss much of that, but I was not able to be there because of a work commitment, but I sure saw some people on TV, and I saw people walking in, and looks like they had some good Bangor support. So, but congratulations to our Bangor girls.
And I'd like to thank Megan, Aaliyah, Zane, and Alex for making that happen, for coming to the school board and acting like advocates for themselves and on their way to adulthood. I don't think it would have happened without Megan, Aaliyah, Zane, and Alex.
I'd like to celebrate the start of outside sports and outside activities. Just talking to the kids, and then also we have volleyball and everything, but I don't know what it is. It probably is just being outside, and then, realizing that months ago, would we have said we even had these types of things? So just the attitude and talking to the kids, after practices, they're like, hey, how's practice? And then great, great, great. And I just think they're so excited to have the opportunity. And then, as Rick said, looking forward for concert and band and choir concert. I'm so hoping that we can, within the protocols, within the limitations, but just to be able to talk about those as possibilities is very, very positive. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we will move on to the next item, removal of items from the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are listed under 10, 1, 2, 3, and the early college credits are on page 43 and 44 of Mr. Mullenberg's report.
I just want to ask one question, follow up from Joni's. So if we have these classes offered here, are they required to take the classes here or can they take these classes also?
Typically what happens is there's a scheduling conflict with here. That's why they're allowed to take them other places. And this exhaustive list doesn't mean, these are ones that they've applied to, but not necessarily not gotten into yet. So some of them are backups in case the scheduling doesn't work here, but it takes board approval before they can actually register for those. So our registration process will happen here first. And then if some things don't work out, they're as a backup, they're on there. But typically, yes, they would take them here as available.
Okay.
For an example, a parent told me once their child wanted to take, I think, general psychology, but it was the same hour as band, and they're in band. So they weren't able to take that general psychology course here. That was quite a few years ago when Bovee was still here. But sometimes it's items like that is the scheduling conflict. Is that it?
Correct. Especially in the upper levels, you talk about Spanish 4, band and choir, anatomy and physiology, and some of those that are they're only offered at a certain time. And so in order to take those, or government and economics, sometimes there is a conflict. So they take them at the college level.
I just wanted to ask for multiple reasons, but also just because I want the programs to stay here too. I mean, I want our teachers to be here and have that. And I mean, I want our kids to be able to take college credits also, but I want them to get what they can here. So that was what follow up from Joni's, but
Yep, correct.
good.
And we do as well.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Julie, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, Lori will abstain. Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, I think that's it. We look to adjourn into closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.85, para 1, para C, para F.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Joni.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. We are now in closed session. John. Okay, we are now in open session. So I am asking for a motion regarding Sean Stack.
I'll make a motion to approve Sean Stack's medical leave.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve a medical LOA for Sean Stack, our bus driver. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No other business to take care of, so I ask for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you much, everyone.
Good night.